Hey, everybody. Hello, welcome. This is Two EdTech Guys Take Questions and Share Cool Stuff. The title that means you don't need to ask what the episode is about, ever. So we are happy to have you. We are excited about our little April 15th episode going on here and all kinds of good news for you. So first of all, we use captions, as in I didn't need the reminder because they're already on. Too good. All right. And our next episode, get this, right? Our next episode is in 2 weeks. Oh, but I knew that. But we're choosing a later time to see how that works. Ooh. So those of you who are joining us live right now, let us know in the chat kind of what you think. Hey, that's a great time. That time's awful. Just let us know in the chat. We're curious what you think of that. But we'll start at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on May the 6th. All right, so we thank you for joining us. We thank lots of good folks who help us make this happen in some fashion or another. The good folks at the Krause Center for Innovation at Foothill College in Los Altos Hills, California. All kinds of great things happen at the KCI. If you're curious about that, get in touch for sure. And then, of course, all of the cool things that happen at Free Tech for Teachers. I'll bet, Richard, that if I ask you to, you could tell us a little bit about Free Tech for Teachers. Although he's looking rather consistent at the moment. I will tell you about Free Tech for Teachers.
I can tell you a little.
Go ahead.
I can tell you a little bit about it. So I started it 14 years ago, and I've written 15,000 blog posts about all kinds of interesting EdTech tools and tips and strategies.
A fine situation. Yeah, it is great. You've created a fine thing that has helped loads and loads of people around the world, and we hope that that will be the case for a long time to come. All right, and then also there's my little nonprofit attempt to save the world from ignorance, one creative video at a time. What is that? Next Vista for Learning, a library of videos by and for teachers and students everywhere. Wow, I'd love to have my kids create videos that would help other kids around the world. Stay in touch with me, and we will make that happen. Because technically, it's just not a hard thing to do. And you'll find on our site videos about academic topics and about communities around the world and about service to others and just all sorts of good stuff. So we hope that that's an interest. We got 2 contests that are still going all the way through the end of the month. The Creative Recovery, 90 seconds or less, creatively explain something one might encounter in school. I've got this great way of describing haiku poetry or elasticity in economics or tying your shoes or whatever it may be. And then service via video is 2 minutes or less. Tell the story of those, maybe an organization, maybe someone you know at the school who makes life better for others. Feel free to get involved in those. So you know about April 15th. First of all, this was the day that the color bar was broken in Major League Baseball. So Jackie Robinson's first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers. So wildly cool that. And if you celebrate Ramadan, you know very well, this year, April 15th is part of Ramadan. So welcome to all of those who are celebrating. And if you are fasting at the moment, hang in there. Hopefully our little episode will get you a little bit farther, along the day towards iftar. All right. And so welcome. And this is National American Sign Language Day. So, which I think is how you say thank you. And if it's not, then I hope I didn't say anything bad. So there you go. All right, now, how does this work? What we do is we take questions and share cool stuff in that order. So get us started, Richard. I believe we have a whole host of cool questions this time around.
We do have a bunch of questions, and let's start right at the top of the big long list with a fairly easy, I shouldn't say a fairly easy question because there's no easy questions, but from Tara, who asked, I'm looking for an alternative to LiveBinder. I've been playing around with BlendSpace and like it, but it lacks easy posting of Google Docs. Do you have any suggestions? I teach 4th grade and they're pretty tech savvy. So my first thought, whenever someone asks me for an alternative to LiveBinders, is OneNote, because OneNote has a very similar feel with notebooks and notebooks that you can share. But when I saw the part about posting Google Docs and 4th grade, I said, maybe not the best option, because to put the Google Docs into OneNote, you'd either have to share the link as a public link, or you'd have to download the documents and then upload them into OneNote. So that one I kind of ruled out. And then I said, how about Google Sites? Because if your goal is to make it easy for kids to find Google Documents along with other resources that you're sharing, other web resources you're sharing, putting Google Docs into a Google site is really easy because you're drawing from the same Google account, just one click, insert document, and then you can do a quick search for the document you want and boom, put it right into that page. So that's an option. Or you might even do like our friend Tony Vincent suggested a couple of years ago, and that is in Google Classroom, just put a section in your materials that says, important resources or handouts or something to that effect that you just put right in there. But I would go probably with Google Sites for the visual aspect of it.
I'd add that when you are thinking in terms of bringing a bunch of documents together, how you want to arrange the activity is your key thing, right? So is it just that folks need to be able to get to other people's stuff? One of the easiest ways to do it is to create just a regular document. In that document, have the students' names and teach them to highlight their name and put in the link to the document that they created. Now, if you have done that via, say, Classroom, then all of the sharing permissions are already in place. And then you could have it that way. But of course, if you've done it via Classroom, you can also see them via Classroom, depending on how you arrange things there. So you got a lot of options for making that happen. Let's keep going, Richard.
All right, this one is not a Google question. Woohoo! I use OneNote for lecture, and the pen cursor is just a dot and difficult to see. I used to use pen attention to highlight the pen cursor, but it does not work in OneNote for Windows 10. Do you have any suggestions of how I can get the pen cursor to stand out so I can see it as well as students when I present, much like a pointer? So if you haven't tried it yet, try it in the web version of OneNote. That'd be the first thing to do, because oftentimes you'll have a little bit better cross compatibility if you use the web version as opposed to the specific desktop version, whichever desktop version you're using. So try that. The other thing is just change your mouse pointer size and or color. And you can do that in the settings for Windows 10. And actually a few weeks ago, I made a video about how to do that. And I'll try to find, and I'll put that video in here in the chat in just a second, as soon as I find wherever it was I posted it. But yeah, you just go into your Windows 10 settings and change your mouse pointer size so that it stands out. I've got kids in my class who do it just for fun, and some who do it for accessibility purposes. But I've had kids do it just for fun, and they put like I had one who did like an actual mouse. He got a clip art of a mouse, and so his mouse pointer was a mouse. Get it? Yeah, pretty funny.
So great comment from the chat, by the way. Changing the mouse pointer does not change the pen pointer, which that's something I had not quite clued into that when we were talking about, or when I was reading through the questions. So
yeah, I didn't either.
Any ideas on that front?
On the pen, no. It's a good point. We'll have to do some more research on that one. Did not realize it wouldn't change the pen pointer.
Yeah, Stacy, stay in touch with us on that. We will we are two people who kind of, it means something to us to find a good answer for you. So stay in touch, and we will see if we can get that. But if for those of you who are watching this, if you weren't thinking specifically pen, do check your accessibility settings. There are so many things in accessibility settings that can be useful for how you do different things on your computer, whatever kind of computer you have. And absolutely worth a look. Because of the volume of questions, Richard, and matter of fact, there was a good one that came up in the chat. What app or platform is the best way to teach fourth grade math interactively yet virtually?
Well, I'll tell you what's happening in my school. It's in my school district. I shouldn't say just in my school. My school district, it's been, I'll say a hit. I mean, flat out, it's been a hit with every math teacher, that I've talked to. They've been just mirroring Explain Everything. So they've been using Explain Everything and mirroring that into Zoom as their kind of go-to, and then the students also have access to Explain Everything, so they can share their screens back if they need the teacher to observe what they're doing as well. Right. So the teacher's using it for instruction, but students also have access to it, and they let them share it back using the make them a presenter or a co-presenter, co-host in Zoom, and they can share it back.
Yeah, nice. I would add that if you have some kind of pen tablet thing for yourself, Jamboard might be another way to do it as well. You could write things in that way, and then put little things for kids to move around to make it interactive through a virtual setting. And so that might be an approach.
Yeah, I'll say the one thing is really great about Explain Everything, and actually Seesaw has this as well. It has a kind of an auto prediction for drawing that's really nice.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're a person who struggles to make, let's say, a square, like you struggle to actually draw a square, you're, for whatever, it will try to predict that you're making a square, and will insert a square, like a perfect square, as opposed to you trying to go back and like actually square it off. And I actually just saw that used yesterday by a teacher. I was kind of observing a little bit yesterday, and saw a teacher using it to perfectly squares it out. So really neat.
Real quick, and by the way, Richard just added a link to the chat, and that tutorial video is the one on
how to adjust your mouse pointer in Windows 10.
Okay, got it. I'll make sure that is in the links for the crew as well. With that, I think we might as well get to a cool thing. So Richard, I believe you have an extension share for us. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this is a Chrome extension called eComments, and on the surface, it looks like just a canned comment tool, and it is. It's a tool for adding canned comments, creating but they have a huge bank of pre-made canned comments that you can use in Google Docs and Google Classroom, but it also works in Microsoft Word and in Microsoft Teams, which is, so if you use Chrome and you use Microsoft Word or Microsoft Teams, you can use canned comments there as well as in Google Docs, or pretty much any place that accepts submission of canned content. You can do it in eComments. The other cool thing about eComments is that you can record an audio comment yourself and add that as a canned comment that you can reuse over and over again. And I'm a really big fan of giving kids audio feedback because, particularly for, like, well, say emerging readers, they may not understand the subtlety of what you're trying to write in your comments, right? Like the tone, they may not pick up on the tone. And so if you can use your voice, I think that conveys a little bit more than just, copying and pasting a canned text comment in there. So
very cool.
So really cool tool.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's awesome. I didn't know about this extension. And so, of course, as teachers, we should always recognize that there are accessibility issues in both directions for something like this. You may well be helping a kid out by providing an audio clip, but that may make another kid have to take the extra step. So finding what that balance is for you with the group you've got, always part of what we do as teachers. Yeah. Richard, let's keep going on these questions. So many good ones.
Yeah, so Julian asked a follow-up question. How would Explain Everything compare to Flipgrid? I will say that Explain Everything is much more for explanatory purposes. There's a lot of tools that are designed for making explanations. It's not a tool designed for doing the webcam style video, where Flipgrid is all about webcam style, kind of off the cuff videos, off the cuff back and forth in terms of conversation. Whereas Explain Everything is much more, what's the word I'm looking for here? Much more geared towards step 1, step 2, step 3, or here's how I am trying to solve this math problem, or here's how I'm trying to make this diagram. Much more explanatory in its nature, as opposed to Flipgrid being a little bit more off the cuff. So that's how I'd explain the differences there. And another question that came up. So let's grab the other question. Where are we there? Question. So this one came from Maggie, friend of the program. Maggie I'm not sure if Maggie's here today, but anyway, Maggie sent me this question. I know that I read that there was a new student draft version of Google Forms. I thought for sure I saved your email into my folder where I save all my emails. And now that I need it, poof, I think I lost it. Am I going crazy? Did I invent this new magic blessing? Can you direct me to the day that it went out so I can try and locate it for my tech guy? Thank you, Maggie. So Maggie, you did not invent a feature. Google did announce last week that there is going to be a save in progress feature in Google Forms for Google Workspaces for Education schools. However, that announcement was an announcement of a beta test of the feature. So what does that mean? It means your domain administrator needs to apply to be a part of the beta for your school. So it's not a guarantee that you're gonna have access to it. The other part of the announcement was that the save in progress feature for Google Forms will require that all your students are signed into a Google account that matches your Google account in terms of your Google account, your Google domain. So it won't work if your students don't have Google accounts, right? They won't be able to save their work in progress. They'll have to be signed into a Google account to save their work in progress. But sounds like a very promising feature where students will have the ability to save, they've gone through 20 questions, have a 40 question Google form. They can save halfway through and revisit it the next day to finish it out or something like that.
Richard, in exploring that, wondering if you might have come across the answer to this good question from Judith in the chat. I'm assuming that this will not be applicable to Google Form Quiz.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Great question.
Couldn't tell you.
Hard to know.
Hard to know. It's one of those things. It's like I said, it's a beta test. Mm-hmm. So maybe Google rolls it out and the beta test goes horribly awry and they decide they're not even going to go through with it.
Sometimes in life, things go horribly awry. Matter of fact, one of the things that can go awry is that you find that something that's been free is no longer free. And so when we're talking about things like the different features in Google's education offerings, there was an email that came out just quite recently as well, where they posted some new things about the different kinds of what used to be called G Suite, what used to be called Google Apps for Education, what used to be called whatever, right? And pay close attention to the stuff that is going to be free and the stuff that you're going to need to pay for. So a lot of things related to Meet, are things that you're going to have to pay for going forward, things like that. Before we move on to the next question, there's another good one in the chat. Richard, we'll call you like the tutorial czar here. Well done, sir. Do you have a demo video related to whiteboard.chat?
Oh, I do.
How about that? Who'd have thought? All right, I'm going to let you grab that. And while you're doing that, I think I'm going to take us to the next question myself. All right. So the next question that we had in looking at the different things is a cool one from Lisa. And it references Peru, which is a place that has a whole lot of good food. What? You've been there? I have. Feel wildly fortunate in that regard. And man, was it good food in Lima. Just so you know. I am wondering about a project I would like to do with my grade 3 class. We have been learning about Peru, and they have created and written 2 informational paragraphs about Peru. Nice. I would like them to use Flipgrid to read aloud their writing, but I am also thinking of having them upload video or pictures to add to their speech. Is this possible? And if so, can I have images chosen for them that they can choose from so it is safe and matches what they're looking for? In other words, I want them to upload a few images that represent their 2 topics on Peru and then be able to record themselves as their images play. I also want to be able to control the images they can choose from so things are kept safe. They are only grade 3. So my quick answer on that is one great tool for doing this kind of thing is Book Creator, right? Where you can piece this together where you've got images, they're recording their voices, they can record themselves speaking to a camera if they want. All of that's easy in Book Creator. The Chrome version, the free version will let you test all this stuff in a big way. But let's also note that if you're trying to get some safe pictures for them, go to some of the sites that may have pictures that aren't ideal, and pick them out, rename, download them, rename them, stick them in, say, a Google Drive folder that they can get to, and then that would be a way to do it. And having said that, I will note first that that Richard has put his link in the chat. I'll get it in the links document as well, related to his whiteboard.chat tutorial, and then also let Richard add anything he wants to this question from Lisa.
Yeah, so I love this question from Lisa, who's at a school division that I have visited myself, up in Alberta. Anyway, so I had a couple of suggestions here. One was that, yes, you could have your students use the screen recording feature that's in Flipgrid and just record while talking about a couple of pictures that are displayed on the screen. So maybe they display a slide or two that have pictures in them, but that might get a little clunky with grade 3s. That the screen sharing can, not screen sharing, but screen recording in Flipgrid can be a little clunky, I would think, for a grade 3 student, or, to be honest with you, for a 43-year-old student, can be a little clunky. So my suggestion was to look at Seesaw, because in Seesaw, you could have students upload pictures to their portfolios and then use the recording tool to talk about those pictures that are in their portfolio pages. And I actually did this with a grade 2 class a couple of years ago, where they took pictures of their favorite page of a book and then talked about why it was their favorite page of that book. So you can do that. You can do that in Seesaw. That would be my suggestion. As well, the Book Creator one is also a good one too. Book Creator has integrated image search as well, so that's a handy tool.
And Joanne says, we used to use Photo Story to put in images and record for each picture. Photo Story was a beautiful piece of programming for Windows machines in the O's, early teens even. Mm-hmm. For me, Adobe Spark has been the replacement for that. It's not a perfect replacement, but like anything, there are pluses, there are minuses. Speaking of pluses and minuses, it would be a real minus to go farther into this webinar without another cool thing. And the cool thing at this point is so cool that when I showed this video to my students in Creative Solutions for the Global Good, ding, great class, one of my students said, and this is a student who for whom this is no small thing to have said, "That's the coolest thing I've ever seen." So what we're talking about with this is jetpacks. And what it is, it's a video about folks in the Lake Country in England, and what they do is they're working with these jetpacks. They fly right to places where somebody might be hurt in the mountains. It is crazy cool. So I will get that link in the chat so you'll be able to see it. And with that, because we have so many questions, I want us to hit as many as possible. Let's see if we can lightning round a number of the rest of these, but I'll get that link in the chat for everybody as well.
Yep. All right. So next question up came from Kathleen, who says, I always enjoy your weekly tech notes. I'm wondering which camera recording program you use to have your webcam circle on the bottom. And it's Screencast-O-Matic. Longtime viewers of the program will know that was going to be my answer. Screencast-O-Matic is what I use for 99% of all my videos. The exception being if I'm using my Chromebook to make a video about something Chromebook specific, then I'll use either Loom or Nimbus Screenshot, which is not nearly as famous as other Chrome extensions, but is a really, really good one.
Great. Great answers on that. I will leap into another question just so we can see how much we can cover. This one from Sandy says, teachers are having students create presentations with Google Slides. I've been trying to find out if originality reports work with slides or only documents. There was discussion about that in the Google forum, but I don't think they made any changes. I'm assuming it's only documents. Do you know any different? Richard, quick answer on that?
Quick answer is it's only documents, but Google did tease just this afternoon some coming changes to originality reports.
I would add as well that originality reports is another one of those things you need to be kind of paying close attention to in terms of, is it part of the free version or is it part of something you have to pay for? And if so, is it worth doing? Understand limitations with something like originality reports, even in docs. All right. By the way, link just hit the chat that Richard was talking about moments ago. Even in docs, when you are looking at originality reports, we tend to think, great, it's checking everything, everything that's kind of searchable that's out there. Maybe, maybe not. It may only be looking at stuff across your own domain. And if so, you may be missing all kinds of things that were less than honorably chosen from other sources that, so just be in that space of really looking for what the language might be. Lightning round. What's the next question for us here, Richard?
All right, this one came from Paulette. I made a Google form quiz. It was all multiple choice. 4 questions had 2 right answers, meaning the kids had to pick both right answers. However, if they did not get the right 2, it grades it as a 0. Thoughts on how I can fix this? Yes. So the way that the automatic scoring works in Google Forms is you have to have an exact match, meaning your student has to exactly match your answer key in order for them to get credit for that question. Google Forms doesn't have the capability to give partial credit. So if they got 1 out of the 2 correct, it still marks it as a 0, even though you might want to get it 50%. So the only way to fix that is to make that an unscored question or to skip scoring on it. And after they submit it, go in and make your score changes. And in which case you'll want to make sure that you uncheck the option for students to view their scores immediately after submission.
Excellent answer. And still on the lightning round, do you know, this is from Jody, by the way, do you know if there is a way to have two-way share going on in a Zoom classroom meeting? I was teaching digital media art using a free app and wished I could have modeled how to do it and also seen one of my students screen simultaneously today. So as far as I know, no is the short answer to the question, but if you are sharing your entire screen and you have set up your windows in such a way that you have something on half the screen that is something you show and something that is on half the screen that is the kids that you share with them, maybe you're kind of close if you can do it along those lines. So it is not something happening within Zoom. I don't actually know of any video conferencing tool that allows you to do what you describe. But I like the sound of it, and it's probably only a matter of time. Anything to add to that, Sir Richard?
I actually tried to do this with one of my students, and it became an infinite loop of me looking at her screen while she was looking at my screen. And so we were basically just became this crazy infinite loop, and we basically saw nothing other than each other looking at each other.
So it was an opportunity to study the idea of recursion.
Yeah. So let's go one more question. I think we've got time for one more question here. And the question was, I do not use Google Classroom. However, the district where my students will be doing their clinicals and practicum experience does. Is there an easy way for me to share a copy of a Jamboard to my students to complete without having to copy and make it editable? The answer is no. There's 2 ways you can share a Jamboard. You can share your Jamboard through Google Classroom, and in which case you can say, make a copy for every student. But if your students are not in the same domain as you, that won't work. So you're going to need to publish your Jamboard with the share a link, have them share it as view only, then have them make their own copies to save in their Google accounts. Otherwise, they'll be editing your original work, and you don't want that to happen.
And another thing you don't want is to miss our next episode. That would be terrible, right? And so when you come back 3 weeks from now, like, where are my 2 favorite EdTech guys? That I'm one of those 2, right? May 6th, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. All right. And this means that we're probably at about 8 a.m. Japan time, I guess, the next morning and all. Join us then. Just note the new time. We would love for you to tell your friends about it as well. We like having a little bit of party here where we share kind of cool ideas. And that's because we think it's really cool what we get to do, which is take care of our kids. And to do so, got to take care of ourselves, right? Get enough sleep, eat the right things, like find out from others, don't reinvent wheels, things like that. You can also check the Next Vista newsletter. By doing that, you will find all kinds sample from March. We'll get that bad boy fixed right there. And by going in, you're going to find that you could win free caffeine. You're like, I don't drink caffeine. You could win free caffeine to give to somebody else. Fantastic, right? So give that a look. See what you think. You can sign up for the newsletter at nextvista.org/newsletter. If you're already on the newsletter, go in and find out what the little challenge is and sign up, because lots of people don't. Vast majority of people who receive my newsletter, they just don't. Just saying. All right. There is a blog at rushtonh.com, rushtonh.com. And I'll tell you, I have posted more than once this year. Thank you very much.
Whoa, big year.
Big year. I fell down in March, but I intend to get back up on my feet here in April. So a little bit of that. Written some books. You take the wins where you can get them. Written some books about improving your teaching, improving your schools, and improving your leadership. And if any of this is of interest to you, absolutely let me know. I'd be very happy to share ideas on that as we go as well. And here is a nice, perfect square 64-page booklet about something cool that Richard might just explain to us now.
Yeah, and the cover is 640 by 640 pixels. How about that?
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Purely coincidentally, I wrote the Practical EdTech Handbook. You can get it for free. Just go to practicaledtech.com/weekly newsletter. Sign up for my newsletter, and you can get a copy of that emailed to you as soon as you confirm that you subscribe to my newsletter. That's a slide for a webinar that I did 2 weeks ago, and we left in anyway. But you can go watch that on my YouTube channel.
It is a fine example of the kind of thing you offer, and that will not come up in the next webinar if I'm real careful about the slides.
Yeah, and that's fine, because you know what? If you go to my YouTube channel, you can go and watch a recording of that anyway, which, by the way, my YouTube channel is on the next slide.
Oh, and by the way, we're also going to be looking for the link to this Teaching History with Technology to get it in the chat, because our buddy Joanne said she'd like to see it. So we're going to make that happen for Joanne, because that's what nice guys we are.
Yeah.
Is so not what I had in mind. Let's see. This is what I was going for right there. Richard, talk to me.
There it is. So there's my YouTube channel. There's my email, my Twitter, and in the chat, I just put in the link to the recording of that Intro to Teaching History of Technology webinar.
Nicely done, sir. The speed was impressive as always. Well done.
Thank you.
And this is the last slide, because the peanutizeme.com version of me is right there with his hair as gray as I could get it on that site. I hope you will stay in touch with us. I hope you will join us again when we do this little shindig on May the 6th at the later time, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Hawaii, or is it 1 p.m. now? Something like that. Anyway, feel free to join in. We would love to have you be part of that. And we hope that you will have an amazing remainder of your Thursday. If you're already in Friday, well, then that's cool too. And thanks again for taking part.